What's up? What's up? I'm gonna tell a story about how I learned how to communicate with my soul. Um, I got company today. Don't mess up my story, alright? So like, when I had bought my house, my first house or whatever, you know what I mean? At the time, a nice neighborhood seemed like an elderly neighborhood, right? So on the street, every day at trash day, it was this little old man. You would see him taking out everybody's trash can to the side of the street, all the way up the street. And he would eventually get to mine sometime. And every time I saw him, I would just throw up my hand, you know what I mean? Out of respect. Hey, uh, he reminded me of my granddaddy because he was a real short man. So, that went on, man, for seemed like years, man. So it got to one point, he kept on taking mine out. So I said, I'm gonna stop and thank him personally. And I said I'm gonna offer him some money or whatever, just for the appreciation or whatever. So one day he came up to my house. He was by my house, so I saw it. I said, "Here go my opportunity." So I went over there. I was like, "Hey, how you doing? How you doing?" Went to introduce myself. Got happy and he smiled. And then when he went to talk back, I realized he couldn't talk. So I didn't know he was mentally challenged. And it was deep to me because with all this time just riding up the street, he just looked like a hard-working old man. You know what I mean? And I had developed this imagination of who he was as an old man, and I just had the utmost respect for him. That's why I say, I was destined to talk to him. So when I realized he was mentally challenged or whatever, it set me back for a second. Then I had to regain myself. So I say, "Thank you, man." And he was like, "Yeah, yeah, 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 yeah." So if anything I can help you with, he say, he put his hand to his mouth, say, "You go buy me a cigarette." He was showing me a cigarette. So I say, "All right." So he jumped in my truck, and he was happy. We rolled down to the neighborhood store. This in Trinity Park. He was leaning out the window, happy, like he had just made a new friend. You know what I mean? I'm tripping because all this time, I never would imagine this. You know what I mean? Never would imagine. So that's why I say, that's another point. Like, sometimes you can be watching somebody else's movie and you can perceive it to be one thing, but when you truly get in the movie and realize it could be something totally different. So, I'm learning this right here at the same time. So we go get the cigarettes or whatever, and I tell him thank you. So then I got to thinking, I say, "Man, this feel good." And previous to that, I said, okay. So I said, "Well, I tell you what." I said, "I cut my grass every Friday." I say, "You come up to my yard." I say, "Help me cut my grass, and I'll give you some money. You know what I mean? Get you some cigarettes and stuff." He said, "Okay, okay." So the next Friday he come up there. And when I cut my grass, my yard, I got a lot of pride. You know what I mean? I cut my grass like I cut hair. Cut that thing, shape it up, blow it off. I want that thing to look like a magazine. So it was a real challenge for me to let another man walk on my grass with a lawnmower. But I say, "Hey, this Mr. Reese right here." I say, "This right here gonna be a beautiful thing." So he helped me cut my grass. And in between that time, I had saw him. Now that he in my movie, it's like I'm noticing him more and more, noticing his characteristics more and more. Now it's making sense. Like, darn, I never saw this in all that time. So I see him asking for cigarettes at the store. So this time when he come cut my grass within a week, I say, "Well, I tell you what, Mr. Reese, I'm gonna take you to the store, and I'm gonna buy you a carton of cigarettes that's gonna last you a week. That way you ain't gotta ask nobody for no cigarettes. He said, okay. And I figured I'd do that because I didn't understand or really know how his situation was with money in that way. So I ain't want to put him in no means of nobody taking advantage of him, getting him money. And that thought was genuine because, down the story I'll tell you. But so, man, we started building this relationship, man. And every time after we got through cutting the yard, we would sit in the backyard. And like I say, he couldn't really talk. So, in my mind, just in my imagination of him and what I'm feeling through him and his vibe, I would have an all-out conversation with him. And he be going back and forth. And I watch him get loud, and I might say, Reese, you lying, Reese. I don't believe that. And he got done rev up at me, man. And it's like we sat out there, man, every week and just had the most beautifulest conversation. You know what I mean, man? And I'm talking with a man who we ain't saying no word. Well, he understand me, but I can't understand nothing he's saying. But at the same time, I get everything he telling me, man. You know what I mean? And it was beautiful, man. And so, just to tell you how the story went, that went on for on, and I think he started getting out bad, getting in his health-wise, so he couldn't really help me. But every time I would see him sitting in the yard, I would stop and talk to him to another old man and just, make sure everything was right with him, man, and let him know, hey, Reese, I'm thinking about you, man. You need anything? So down the line, I stopped seeing Reese, man. So I stopped at the old man house. I said, hey, what happened? Wait, Reese said I ain't saw him. He said, man, I heard they put him in a nursing home. I said, why? What happened? So he was saying somebody that was staying with his family had got out of jail, and Reese had money where people was giving him, I guess, a couple of dollars for taking out the trash close by his house, and the dude hit him in the head and took his money. Man, that broke my heart so much, man. But Mr. Reese taught me how to truly hear the voice of somebody's soul, man. And just through his joy and our conversations, or just sitting back there, like you say, I don't know what his day-to-day life was with his family, but I know when we shared time together, he ain't had no reminder of any disability he had. He talked and he yelled, he laughed, and you know what I mean, man. And I just went along right with him, man. And the lesson even got deeper because what I learned from Reese, at the time, I didn't have any kids. So when I learned how to truly hear the soul, when I got kids, I always kept Reese as a reference. So when my kids came, I remember when they was infants, I used to stare in my baby's eyes, man. And I just used to look at them. They would look back at me. And it's like I say, you got control of this thing, don't you? And it's almost like we would have a conversation. But I just used to be so amazed how my kids didn't have I'm talking about infants, they didn't have no thought process in a word per se. But they can look me in my eyes and tell me, go get me a bottle, change my diaper, lay me on your chest, and pat me to the illest rhythm you can come up with your hands, and we getting ready to take a nap, man. You know what I'm talking about? And that shit used to work. And I used to look at it and be like, how in the hell did you tell me that? And it would be things like me, like you say, both of my son and my daughter, they would be crying, and I would just stare them in their eyes while they crying. And it's like, man, something connected, where I could feel in their cry and their voice. I knew what the hell, man. I still know what my kids want. I still can almost just look at them and we be communicating, man. You know what I mean? But it was deep, though. But I credit that to Mr. Reese, man. He was a beautiful man. I think I heard he passed now. But he taught me how to communicate with my soul. And like I say, we would just sit in the backyard after we cut the grass and laugh and talk, man. And I know I was his friend and he was my friend, but I ain't never understand no word he said, but I felt everything he was saying. I love it.